Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into a really complex legal question. It often comes up after, well, the most tragic events. We're going to unpack whether ongoing harassment, that kind of ill treatment, can actually lead to a charge of abetment to suicide. And we'll do this by looking at a very recent, important Supreme Court of India judgment from 2025.
Yeah, it's a genuinely tricky issue that courts grapple with all the time. We're focusing on a case involving the suicide of a member of parliament, a 7-time MP, actually. He left a note, and in it, he named people he claimed had conspired against him, defamed him, demeaned him. He said this is what drove him to take his own life. So our goal here is to understand the legal lines the court drew, how they decide criminal responsibility in a situation like this.
Okay, right. So let's break down the situation.
Right.
The MP's son, he was the appellant in this case. His argument was, look, my father faced constant humiliation from officials, administration, police. He mentioned things like extortion attempts, even a forceful takeover of a college.
Yeah, serious allegations. And his point was that the totality of all this, this whole pattern, even if there wasn't one single event right before, that should be enough. Enough to count as abetment, like a cumulative effect driving him to...
Cumulative effect, right.
Right.
But there was a counter-argument.
Oh, definitely. And it's quite the contrast. The respondents, including the administrator who was accused, they basically said, hang on, these allegations might stem from the MP's own oversensitivity. That was the term used. And they pointed out something crucial. These really serious claims like extortion.
Yeah.
They were never brought up before. Not to any formal body, not even to the Parliamentary Committee of Privileges, which, interestingly, the MP had gone to about other issues.
Okay, so he'd used that channel before, but not for these specific claims.
Exactly. The respondents highlighted that the suicide note itself was the very first time these specific, very serious allegations actually surfaced in writing.
Okay, this really gets to the heart of it then. Understanding the law around abetment to suicide, that's Section 306 of the Indian Penal Code, right? India's main criminal law.
That's the one. And the Supreme Court was really clear on what's needed for that charge. They stressed that mens rea is crucial.
Mens rea, the guilty mind, the intention.
Precisely. A clear, conscious intention to actually instigate the suicide or to aid it. It's not just about how the victim felt, their hopelessness or hypersensitivity, as the defense put it.
So feeling awful isn't enough in the eyes of the law here.
No. There needs to be, and this is key, a positive act by the accused, something they actively did, an act that directly creates a situation where the victim feels they have, quote, no other option but to end their life.
A positive act leaving no other option. Wow, that really sets a high bar for prosecutors. So given this case involved alleged long-term harassment, how did that standard apply? What did the court make of that history?
Well, the court didn't ignore the history, but they emphasized something else. The need for a proximate prior act. Think of it like, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Final straw.
Exactly. Even if there's been ongoing harassment for ages, the law generally looks for a final direct trigger, something closely preceding the act itself that links the accused's actions directly to the suicide. And they pointed out this isn't just an interpretation for this case. There are other laws, like those dealing with dowry deaths. Those specifically require, by statute, an incident happening soon before the death. It shows that this idea of a proximate link is a deliberate legal standard.
Okay, so proximity matters
Yeah.
a lot. And how did that play out for the MP here? I mean, he was a seasoned politician, right? Who presumably knew how things worked.
That's a point the court noted. He was aware of his rights. He did pursue remedies. Like we said, he went to the Committee of Privileges, and they even took some action based on his complaints about other things. But the specific instances of disrespect or harassment that were cited in this context, they happened months before his death.
Months before. So not proximate.
Exactly. Lacking that close connection in time the court was looking for, and perhaps most significantly, the court actually found the suicide note itself to be suspect.
Suspect? Why?
Well, partly because these major allegations that the extortion, naming the administrator, had never been mentioned before in any formal complaint or statement. Plus, there were issues like the handwriting apparently wasn't verified, and the note wasn't immediately recovered and reported by the police either. It raises questions about its reliability as evidence.
Right. So even in these incredibly emotional, tragic cases, the court still has to focus on verifiable evidence, on the legal requirements.
Absolutely. It has to. So without that clear positive instigation, without proof of mens rea, and without that proximate prior act...
What was the final decision?
The court concluded there was no direct causation. no direct legal link between what the accused allegedly did and the MP's suicide. Therefore, they upheld the High Court's decision to quash the FIR.
Who quashed the FIR, basically, ending the criminal case based on that initial report. It's really fascinating and also quite stark, isn't it?
Yeah.
How the law tries to navigate this between, these terrible personal tragedies and the very specific, very high requirements for proving criminal intent in abetment cases.
It really is, and it leaves us with a challenging thought, especially today. In a world where, let's face it, prolonged emotional distress, maybe amplified online or elsewhere, is a very real thing. How should our legal systems balance things? The need to hold people accountable for genuinely harmful actions, but also acknowledging the complex, often deeply personal and multi-layered reasons behind suicide, the sheer vulnerability involved. It's a tough balance to strike.